Stretching from modern-day Ukraine to Mongolia, the Eurasian Steppe is an ocean of open grassland. For centuries, this expanse was controlled by a feared empire that left behind no cities, no stone temples, and no fortresses for us to find. The Scythians struck fear into the hearts of both the Greeks and the Persians. But because they never developed a written language, almost everything we know about them historically comes from the accounts of their enemies, most notably the ancient Greek historian Herodotus. To find the truth beneath those ancient rumors, modern archaeologists track a highly specific cultural fingerprint known as the Scythian Triad. This consists of 3 interconnected markers: their signature weapons, their specialized horse gear, and their highly distinct animal-style art. For a society built on constant movement, traditional architectural archaeology fails. Tracking this specific triad of scattered artifacts is the only reliable way we can reconstruct a culture that lived its entire life in motion. The first pillar of the triad is weaponry. Scythian military technology was the foundation of their regional power. Their primary tool was the Scythian composite bow. Crafted from wood, horn, and sinew, this bow possessed a severe, unique curvature. This engineering provided a high power-to-size ratio, making it short enough to fire from horseback, yet strong enough to pierce armor. When combat was forced into close quarters, they relied on a secondary weapon called the asinaces. This short, double-edged sword was designed for fast, lethal strikes in hand-to-hand combat. Armed with these tools, Scythian cavalry perfected hit-and-run tactics. They would close in on enemy formations, unleash a rapid barrage of arrows, and immediately retreat, even firing backward over their shoulders while galloping at full speed to deter anyone trying to pursue them. This highly trained military force was strikingly inclusive. Excavations of warrior graves containing these weapon caches reveal that up to a quarter of them belonged to women, providing the hard physical evidence behind the Greek myths of the Amazons. Their military technology, paired with the mobilization of a substantial portion of their female population, provided the numerical and tactical momentum required for their expansion. The second pillar of the triad, horse gear, reflects a core survival strategy. Their military dominance worked precisely because they never had to defend a static capital or a vulnerable farming village. Entire communities lived on the move in mobile homes. They constructed heavy, multi-compartment wagons drawn across the plains by teams of oxen. Because of this lifestyle, the riding horse held a sacred status in Scythian culture. When a warrior died, their mounts were often sacrificed and buried alongside them, complete with elaborate, studded metal bridles and complex cheek pieces that survive in the soil today. This absolute mastery of horseback riding effectively shrank the Eurasian continent. The open steppe became a high-speed transit network, rendering the borders of settled nations completely meaningless. During the 2nd century BCE, that high-speed network triggered a massive geopolitical chain reaction. Rival nomadic tribes, notably the Xiongnu, began pushing westward, forcing the Scythians out of their ancestral grazing lands. Fleeing this pressure, the Scythians moved south. They displaced other regional tribes in their path, fractured the existing Greco-Bactrian borders, and ultimately poured into the Indian subcontinent to establish the Indo-Scythian Kingdom. Rather than pillaging and moving on, the Scythians stayed and adapted. They retained their identity, but absorbed the local administration, with their new rulers even actively supporting and spreading Buddhism. We can see this cultural fusion physically stamped into their currency. This silver Indo-Scythian coin clearly depicts a nomadic king sitting firmly on horseback. But if you look at the outer edge, that traditional steppe imagery is surrounded entirely by ancient Greek text. This nomadic migration transformed the Scythians from tribal raiders into the administrators of a multicultural empire. To understand the third and final pillar, their iconic animal-style art, we have to look at one of its earliest known sources, the Tunuk I burial mound in Siberia, which dates all the way back to 800 BCE. At this early stage, animal-style art was strictly utilitarian. You only find it on horse gear, and the craftsmen only depicted real, local predators, like felines and birds of prey. These specific animal carvings functioned as localized identity markers, allowing the diverse, decentralized tribal groups building the burial mound to recognize one another. This iconic artistic tradition began as a practical, restricted visual language for communication between nomadic bands. long before it became a decorative luxury for the elite. As the Scythians expanded their territory and their wealth over the centuries, that practical art style detached from horse bridles and devolved into pure elite status symbols. They became so influential that settled societies catered directly to them. Master Greek artisans began actively crafting luxury items specifically tailored to Scythian tastes, like this solid gold comb depicting a chaotic, hyper-detailed combat scene. At its absolute peak, this art became a dense collision of the ancient world's greatest empires. This golden pectoral is a masterpiece of cultural blending. Look closely at the bottom tier. Those are griffins, fantastical, hybrid predators drawn from Mediterranean and Persian mythology, tearing into steppe horses. The Scythian Triad identifies a people whose unparalleled mobility and adaptable art served as the connective tissue of the ancient world, linking east and west.